Everyone talks about motivation as the thing that fuels them and keeps them going. Some talk about anger, some talk about fear. There's a bunch of different things that go into it. For me, the overarching thing, like the deepest thing that actually gets me to move forward, actually gets me to do the things consistently, is a responsibility. And the responsibility is not to myself, but to, and I always talk about the kid in the middle of dirt nowhere in Africa. I talk about the business owner that does the actual work, the actual boots to the ground, like owns the power station, like makes the grid lines, like the people who actually do the things that make the difference. The plumbers, the electricians, the mechanics. Those are the people who actually move the ball forward. Um, the disconnect becomes those people are often really good at what they do, but they aren't awesome at communicating what they do. And that's the gap that I try to fill. You know what I'm saying? Like right now, we're in a space where people are trust based. And so you talk about your consultant, you talk about your doctor, you talk about your financial firm, you talk about your law firm. These are the type of spaces where, trust goes a long way, and building that trust and credibility is a very difficult thing. And so being able to take what is already existing and your customers are experiencing and having that translate online, and people being able to understand exactly who you are, what you do, and how important what you do has been historically and can be for them. That's the name of the game, right? Very, very heady stuff, very above the shoulder. You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, but what do you actually do? It's like, no, I strategize. It's like, what does that mean? Well, it's the prioritization of limited resources against unlimited opportunities. Like, but what does that mean? It's like I let people know about their stuff better. Marketing is like amplification and just blasting that, hey, this thing exists. But mine is, but what are you saying exists? Like what story are you telling? What narrative? Why are you saying that? How does that aid in you positioning yourself in the market? And in like how does that in turn lead to bottom line? You know. So that's me. That's what I do for now. And going from where we are, some of the elements that we include in that is we do offer other people's services and arbitrage that, meaning we can integrate the people that we have to offer into our plans in order to deliver for the client. And so we do offer these opportunities for freelancers to be able to engage with these larger brands and corporations. Okay, so that's kind of a contributing thing that we do. Okay, obviously we do this, and I'm just one person, and there's only so much that I can do on a daily basis, but there's so many things that need to get done that I know need to get done that I've done before and need to continue getting done. Okay, so I have people who do those things for me. It's like, okay, cool, we see that, but then again, where's the kid? So the kid is in two places for me. First and foremost, the kid is within those freelancers. The way that I got through to them is by going door to door, having the conversations, eating the rejections. And what allowed me to persist is not necessarily thinking about, man, but there's this thing that I want to build. For me, like that wasn't really the fuel for me. The fuel for me, the thing that got me to, again, take action when I didn't want to take action is, where would I be if Patrick Bet-David had given up? Where would I be if Alex Hormozi had given up? You know, and for me, uh, Pat was the guy. Patrick Bet-David was the guy in terms of, he's a numbers guy, and he introduced me to being a numbers guy. But actually, going through the motions, going through the numbers, and actually making me believe that it was possible to begin with. He didn't really give me boots to the ground advice in terms of what exactly to do, how exactly to form a business plan, how exactly to. He did point me in the right direction. I read all the books. I read your Blue Ocean Strategy, your Think and Grow Rich, your Rich Dad Poor Dad, your I read so many books based off of his advices. The E Myth, like there's so many books that did give me that practical boost to the ground stuff that I'd gotten from him. But from him, it was mostly making it possible, making the big small, right? Putting things into perspective so that you can have the belief and believe that it's possible, and then take action thereafter. Is the way that it happened for me. I'm not saying it has to happen that way for you. Like you can very realistically not believe that you can do it and still do what it takes and get the outcome. So the most important thing is doing what it takes. But for me, the sequence that it happened is I got in contact with the people, the person who gave me that belief. And so it wasn't even a faith thing. It wasn't a blind faith thing. It was a numbers thing. In terms of there was this one video in particular. There's a bunch of videos where he talks about the whatever of money, the this of money, the that of money. But there was this one in particular where he was talking about the like mathematical ways to get to 1 million, and the way he broke it down. Now he okay, I'll tell you the difference now between him and Alex. The way he broke it down is like he met you where you're at in terms of, listen, if you're selling things for $500, here's what you need this many people under you, you make this much commission off of them selling this and this that boom, million. If you're selling, you know what I'm saying, and it's like, okay, the more high ticket you sell, the less people you need, the less overhead you have, the more of that will be profit for you, the better you can get to that thing. But if you want to do low ticket, here's how you do it. Here's how many people you need. Here's how many sales you need. Here's how much of that you. Anyway, point being, he mathematically broke it down and made the big small in terms of he made it look possible. I was like, no man, but mathematically speaking, this actually it isn't impossible. In fact, it doesn't sound that hard. Like I was like, if you look at the numbers and you just look at the numbers, take all the emotion out of it, there's no mathematical reason why I can't be a millionaire. You get what I'm trying to say? That was the first like belief breaking. That's the biggest thing and shift that I had whenever I was consuming Pat's content. And then there was also that edge, like I said, of getting the books and getting um, all those different things. And then from Alex, it was more boots to the ground. Like, here's why you should sell to the rich. You know what I'm saying? Like, here are the benefits of raising prices. Here are, and so it was a further breaking down of. So now that I already believed, it's like, okay, but how? And that's what I was looking for in all the books that I read. And then again, I found Alex, and then he was like, here's how. It's like from here, it's like, okay, I believe I can do this. I know I can do this. I can do this. But how? And so I read again Blue Ocean Strategy, um, Blue Ocean Strategy, Built to Sell, you name it, bro. Like Crucial Conversations, uh, it's like literally you name it, I've read it. So it's like I believe, I understand here, but I don't know what to do now. like what can I do now today to start? Um, and when I found that out, friend of mine, shout out to Heine, he knows who he is, introduced me to the concept of Alex in the gym. And then he was like, yo, this guy, he's actually insane, bro. Like, it doesn't make sense, the stuff that he gives away for free. I was like, you know what I'm saying? I was like, I'm sure there's gonna be some way where I just hit a paywall and then it's gonna be an affiliate code back to this guy. You know what I'm saying? I was like, this guy's just referring me because he's trying to make, you know what I'm saying, a little something, whatever. Right? Because we hadn't had a relationship for that long or know each other for that long, but we've really connected on the entrepreneurship thing. Um, and then he's like, nah, bro, this guy, Alex Ramosi. Boom. I start to get into his stuff. I'm hooked. Next thing I know, I'm buying books, buying his books. And his books, realistically, I think those were the last books that I bought. I bought books for friends after that, but like actually like buying, reading consistently, because all that was left, like I was like, damn, you know what? I know everything that I need to know now. Like I really feel that I'm in a spot where everything that I can learn from a book, I have more or less learned. Not to say that I don't still listen to a podcast every once in a while today, or watch some very practical tactical content when I need to do a specific thing, or when I'm like, I don't know what I need to do next, or what the overcome for this particular hurdle that I'm at is. Of course, yeah, you then consult the videos nowadays, the books back in the day. It would be, yeah, like you still need those things, those nuggets. Sometimes you just need to be reminded. I use those, I use $100 million offers like a textbook. I use $100 million leads like a textbook. Those are things that I'm constantly reminding myself of and going back to and revisiting whenever I need to use the thing now. But I'm not constantly just consuming content now. I'm more realistically like churning out content, putting out content, and being very careful about what it is that I consume, why I'm consuming it, etc. Um, so yeah, all that being said, I don't know where I would be, what I would be doing if they had given up. And I know and have heard the stories many, many times, of what they went through in order to persist and keep going. And so I always think about these marketers that I have at my disposal and where they would have been if I'd given up then, where they would be if I give up now. You know what I'm saying? Like there's some things and some actions that I've taken that I'm like, damn, these things work. They just need time, and they just need me to be patient, and for me to suffer through a little bit. Um, and if I do that and I persist, there's definitely something that can be done. There are moves that can be made. There are things that can be achieved that'll make other people's dreams very possible. So for Layla, she talked about getting hate online. um, People were questioning her, criticizing her, telling her to stop, and her response was, she had talked about her former self. You know what I'm saying? She talked about herself from the past, and that's who she does it for. And then I thought about, damn, you know what? Who I do it for? Again, I always go back to, that kid, Mill of Africa. Either it's the content, like, damn, if I reach and impact that person in that way, then they can change the world. And that's something I wanted to touch on as well, which is, it's not necessarily that I believe that this heady bullshit strategy or whatever, like, well, whatever, like the communication, like the stuff that I'm good at, is more the interpersonal things, the glue that makes the things that do the actual work, um, at scale. And so I understand that I may not be the one to necessarily directly, change the world, change the continent, but I can definitely facilitate, create the networks, the connections, um, create the infrastructure from a human capital perspective, to allow people to gain access to actual capital, to allow people to gain access to actual opportunity. I can create those spaces, um, and the infrastructure from an organizational perspective is what I can provide. So I can create and facilitate the intangibles that make the tangible possible for many people at scale. And in doing so, in doing the kind of work that I do, and yes, I'm starting in the industries that I'm starting in, but when we secure those wins and we have a bit more proof, these same principles work even for, um, things that are, more practically inclined. It's just that I don't have the proof to show up in those spaces because I'm not in that space myself. However, when you, like, secure these wins at a certain scale, which is just going to take time to do, like I'm in the process. It's just going to take time. When you secure these wins at a certain scale, then that allows you to go across industries and start to get more into the nitty gritty of the boots on the ground. And even with some of the work I'm doing now, it is with organizations that work with the boots on the, so it's with people that are, much further ahead in the game, than I am, and allowing them the strategy and practical, tools in order to amplify some of the work that they do, is what is where I'm at right now. And the goal for us long term is to start not only being the strategy behind those things, but to eventually be the capital behind those things, to eventually buy into these businesses that do the boots on the ground stuff. um, and in doing so, not just in South Africa but across the continent, to be that cog, that heartbeat, that pulse, the veins that flow through Africa and carry the nutrients to all those different spaces in order to find, again, that little kid in Africa. That's really who I do it for. And so for me, thinking on such a macro scale, again, it makes my problems this big. Any problem I face this big, like literally, like things like these airy things like bankruptcy, they're running out of money. Like you can't really, because money isn't real. It's just it's about exchanges in value, right? It's about providing value. And so if I provide value to you and you haven't done anything for me, or you don't have anything to barter of equal value, then you compensate me with this thing and you give me this thing in as a substitute for you not being able to exchange the value. But if we did have a value exchange that made sense for the both of us, then there's no need for money to be exchanged. And so it isn't, you don't make money, you exchange value for money, you know? Um, so I tend not to worry about those things, especially in the short to medium, as long as I know that my long is in alignment with where I want to be. And I know the value that I am creating and that I want to create. I know that it is an eventuality that the money will follow, because it does. It follows suit. It always does. It always has. It always will. Um, and so whenever clients say no, opportunities fall through, and the content underperforms, I remember that I'm not building Legacy Africa for me. I'm building it for that kid, for the entrepreneur who hasn't started, the student who doesn't know what's possible, for the builder who needs the opportunity, the founder who needs the visibility. Maybe they aren't even born yet, and they need the trust, they need the ecosystem, the network, the opportunity. And that's what I provide. And so, an important distinction is, like I said, I'm not building roads, I'm not building power stations, I'm not building ports. Other people do that. And what I'm trying to do is help the right people get seen, help the right businesses grow, help the right builders survive long enough that they can win, and that they can create those things in the spaces that need them most. And most of those businesses don't fail because of poor execution. They don't fail because they're not capable. They fail because they can't communicate their value to the marketplace effectively, consistently, and soon enough to facilitate the growth. And there's so many capable businesses in my small town that I'm in right now that are extremely capable, have been doing it for centuries, in some cases, like actual, like a century and some change. um, and that's only known locally, that's only known internally. And I want those businesses to be able to have an impact on a national scale, a continental scale, an international scale. And if I can facilitate that, then, like, proving that I have the ability to do that for them will allow me to, again, transition to the industries that are the actual boots on the ground, things that move the ball forward in a real way in terms of actual people's lives. But in order to gain that capital, we need to shift that capital from where it is. And if we hope to gain capital, then we must not get caught in the trap of trying to sell to the masses who don't have the capital, but we must provide value to the few that do have the capital, and in doing so, allow them to multiply their capital and capture uh, pieces of that upside that you do create. And I understand how this can be understood as you're helping the rich get richer. When we talk about these concepts like sell to the rich and they'll make you one of them, it, they do sound like very selfish endeavors and selfish concepts. But realistically, if you think about how many people are competing for the 50 rand of the person that is within the masses, versus how many people are competing for the 50,000 rand, 500,000 rand, of the person who is at the highest level, you realize that the higher up you go, the less competition there is. And the more value you can provide to them, the more money you can make for a smaller percentage of how much money they have in total. And so the easier the sale is, you just have to know what you're doing and what you're talking about. And that's the challenge. And that's what actually weeds out more people than not, is competence. And that's where you want to compete. Not in terms of, oh, what can I convince people of? But it's how can I state the facts and tell the truth in a compelling way to the right people to be able to capture a bit of that upside and redistribute the capital in the ways that I see fit. A lot of businesses get lost in the weeds, not because they don't know what they're doing, but because they can't let the correct people know what they're doing. The multiplier effect is that some people create value, other people amplify value. Legacy Africa sits in that second category where we talk about visibility, positioning, credibility, these intangible things, um, not because these things are the mission, but because they help the mission survive. And so the question I ask myself is, whenever I feel like quitting, what happens if I stop? Not to me, but what happens to them? Because if I quit, they never meet me, they never meet the network, they never access the opportunity, and they never receive the introduction. The chain breaks. And so the moment your mission becomes bigger than you, your pain becomes smaller than your purpose. You make the big small. From a numbers perspective, you make the big small. Like, oh, how many no's and how many reps do I have to go through in order to touch this much? Oh, in order to touch this much, I just have to go through this many no's. When you start thinking of life in terms of how many no's do I have to go through in order to get to where I want to go, you get excited every time you hear the word no, because you know that I am not a no, I am one yes away. And so every no I hear, I just get gassed because I'm like, okay, that's like it allows you to focus more because it's like, oh my goodness, that's one less person that I have to consider as a potential customer now. I now know that they are not interested, which means I am one step closer to figuring out who is interested. And when I find that person, I get paid. So I get gassed every time I hear the word no. And you kind of have to develop that mentality, especially, and it's super easy. It's really, really easy. Again, we talk about the things that Patrick David teaches in terms of mentality. It's super, super easy to keep going when you get into a space where you realize like, oh, mhm. In order for me to have the impact that I want to have, my dream has to be big enough that other people's dreams fit inside it. I always think about that, especially when I'm in a space where I'm, getting exceptional team members, hiring exceptional talent, um, for the level that I'm at. It's not purely because, I flash numbers at them and I promise them the sun, the moon, the stars, but I just let them know what the mission is and how big it is, and they can imagine their visions within my vision. And as soon as I brought my dream out into the world and people started doing that, that's when I realized like, oh, there's something here that people can get behind. People can put their hearts, their passions, their lives, their actual life force. Because we're all looking for purpose, and if you can bring into fruition a purpose that is grand enough and benefits all of us, we will get behind you. That's what it really is. And so I don't keep going because I'm strong. I keep going because I don't believe the work belongs to me anymore. I very realistically say this all the time that I have no moral right to compromise at this point. Like, I have no moral right to give up. I have no moral right. Like, I couldn't give up and sleep at night. I couldn't give up and continue to live my life, continue to accept love, continue to live. It wouldn't feel like living knowing what I know and what I could do about it, and having the skills that I have, knowing that I couldn't endure and take the pain, and therefore there's so many people's lives that are not going to change, is just not something that I could live with. And so whenever I get kicked in the teeth by life, I remember something, and that is, this isn't about me. And somewhere in Africa right now, maybe 20 years from now, there's a builder whose future depends on the work I do today. And if that's true, then I don't have the right to quit. Thank you guys for watching. If you are a marketer who lives in Port Elizabeth, who does a marketing related discipline, photography, web development, uh, you know, all of the above, then Legacy Africa, link is in the description down below. Plenty of opportunities there for those people. That's the first place that I go in order to deliver for clients, will be to my own talent pool. So that's what you find in the description. If you did in fact enjoy the video, if you're not a marketer, but you did in fact enjoy the video, thank you for watching. I have been Sage, standing on. Please subscribe. Please. Okay. If you did get value. If you didn't, it's fine. Don't subscribe. I've been Sage, standing on business. Signing out.